I can see the majority carries the vote there.
Warmest congratulations to Mr. J.A. Kufuor for winning so decisively and with such resounding result.
I am sure that will be
Thank you so much.
with Mr. Yusuf holding the flag of the MPP for the coming presidential elections.
Good
And more
presentation.
importantly, since
Thank you
he
very much, sir.
believes
Too good and too
he
risky.
will try and
If
foster
it
this
fails,
alliance
we lose
and make
everything.
sure
Oh,
that
I
victory
assure
is
young
won
man,
in December.
I am not new to all this story.
The contest is now history.
You have risen faster than anyone else.
And as is the tradition of our party,
Is that a bad thing? I don't know how you got everybody wrapped
work
around your
effectively
finger.
with my
But I am not
colleagues
easily
and friends.
fooled. You remember the proverb? What the boy sees way up from the treetop.
Being
And
nominated
Helder
as a
already says,
presidential
sit
candidate
down.
is one thing, and winning the actual presidency is another task. How Mr. Kufuor is going to fulfill this ambition will depend on the Ghanaian electorate who go to the polls in December this year to exercise their franchise. As to whether he will be given the nod or not, well, time will tell. Francis Esu, DTV.
Unfortunately, Mr. Kufuor lost the 1996 election, but his conduct on Inauguration Day won him many admirers within the Ghanaian body politic. Mr. Kufuor did the unthinkable. He mounted the stage to congratulate his rival, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, in the full glare of the general public at Ghana's Independence Square. Ghana television commentator Edward Fache was pleasantly surprised.
This is a very historic moment. J.A. Kufuor goes to congratulate President Rawlings, and there you see Mrs. Kufuor. President Rawlings shaking hands with Dr. Edward Mahama. And isn't this a wonderful moment? You can see Mr. J.A. Kufuor.
Destiny had fully come, and Mr. Kufuor and his team campaigned vigorously around the country. Eventually, he was elected as President of Ghana by a landslide in the second round of voting. Here is Mr. Kufuor in his first sessional address to Parliament, introduced to the House by the unforgettable Peter Ala Ajete, the then Speaker of Parliament.
In inviting His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana,
the then
Commander
Speaker of
of the Ghana
Parliament,
Armed Forces, to deliver his message on the state of the nation.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, 5 weeks ago, on 7th January, year 2001, I appeared before you to swear the great oath to assume the high office of President of the Republic. Since then, I have been occupied with assembling the team which will assist me in the discharge of my mandate. With your cooperation, that task is now substantially complete.
Perhaps Mr. Kufuor is the first president under the Fourth Republic to have achieved major significant social interventions. The National Health Insurance Scheme was fully established in Ghana for the first time. The free compulsory universal basic education was implemented. The capitation grant and the school feeding program fully established in Ghana for the first time. The free compulsory universal basic education and the school feeding program, the national established in Ghana for the first time. The free compulsory universal basic education. The Democratic Party therefore had to choose a new leader. On that auspicious occasion in 2007, Mr. Kufuor sounded significantly philosophical.
This party issues out of a tradition that is displaying attributes with a strong streak of spirituality. Seriously, there is an innate wisdom, shrewdness, and mystique that combine to hallmark this party as no ordinary party. It's truly a party of destiny, and I speak with some authority because I've come through the process and I know it.
Mr. Kufuor's desire to see his party and their candidate win the election was thwarted as Ghanaians voted for the rival party, the NDC. Mr. Kufuor showed high democratic skills in accepting the verdict when he addressed Parliament for the last time in 2008.
Naturally, Mr. Speaker, I had hoped that after my tenure, I would be succeeded by a candidate from my own political tradition. But as things stand and have turned out, the Electoral Commissioner has declared that the electorate of Ghana has decided otherwise. As a Democrat, I acknowledge this declaration, and I therefore congratulate once more Professor John Evans Atta Mills on his election. Mr. Speaker, I should also congratulate the NPP flag bearer, Honorable Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who has acquitted himself with valor and the greatest sense of dignity in what is perhaps one of the closest and most keenly contested elections ever in the nation's political history.
In this interview, Mr. Kufuor explains why his party lost the election.
Unfortunately for us, we went into the 2008 election with some splits within our ranks. For instance, 18 of our members stood independent in parliamentary elections. Didn't help us. That didn't help us. If they hadn't done it, Nana Addo would have won one touch. Because even with all the splits on the count after the first round, he led by 49-point-something%. Needed only 23,000 votes to have won outrightly.
8 years later, Mr. Kufuor was back on the campaign trail to ensure that his party was re-elected to power. And as fate would have it, it must have been a proud moment for John Agyekum Kufuor while he watched his friend and contemporary, his former Attorney General and former Foreign Minister, take the oath of President, and his, Mr. Kufuor's former appointee at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, take the oath as Vice President. At this stage, the historians will begin to write. The only small matter of a setback to Mr. Kufuor's administration will be the gruesome murder of the Yana Yakubu Andani under Mr. Kufuor's watch as President of Ghana and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. All in all, history should judge Mr. Kufuor kindly. After all, he enhanced democracy and good governance. None of his appointees was found for corruption. He laid down the foundations of meaningful social interventions over an 8-year period. And he also set up the National Reconciliation Commission to reconcile our people towards a great future. And he accepted the narrowest of defeat even when his party did not win. This is what Mr. Kufuor said about himself in terms of legacy.
My abiding principle in life has always been to leave a place better than I found it.
In that regard, may we confer on John Agyekum Kufuor, the most distinguished constitutional statesman of Ghana. So, to J.A. Kufuor, we say, Aiko. Christine Church, and all of those women comfort to whistle of the end.
You know what they're all about.
She's all of those women comfort to whistle longevity of the 1992 Constitution. Her main concern is because she has also heard, as many have, that some people want to remove the Lord Chief Justice, get rid of him from office on basically political grounds. That's what she's heard. Others have heard it too. But around the same time, we'll take you to the touch screen and show you.
hours prior.
And I just a war.
By the through August,
Around the same time, you know what they
August,
do.
no, I shall not
Show you
August, the number 2 hours.
And I just a war.
By the through August, no, I shall not August, the number 2 hours.
And I just a war.
It's from the Thank you.
Ghanaians together as one ethnicity. He was apolitical. We must evaluate him. May Allah give him a beautiful rest till we meet again. Bawumia Jr. There's good evening, Paul. President Mahama should not be silent on the Boku conflict. He should bring peace as he promised them in his campaign tour in 2024. The reality would always expose the NDC. And this one is lastly from Alex Nyako. He says, President Mahama and the NDC cannot intimidate Reverend Inti.
Right from the beginning,
the whole country is behind him. How dare NIP to arrest the citizen MP? He should be invited. God help us all.
You will subscribe to Honoma, depending on what we are on to me hide the beam. You will be also a confessor fan now for Obuha or Refie Bakumusi, Dakopa or Den Hujija. Or bet chef you watch if you own your men in Uncle Chris or bet your uncle and we say one own your waba. So what I say. And it's that kind of woman who won't mean carnation.
The rest we voted
for. Or they will be PM of you say on Waba. You go on my own chair, or best chair, or within a day. One of when you will be about but if you are more champion, dear. On Shadan to one channel, dear. Obey me to Sambra wish me now about the route them. I had obey Africa. Nemum or back penance or the one rabbits now. Obey that they can't intimidate anyone in the country. Obepie Otadia or store, Obepie, Obibeka San, Obibeka Bibiachan, Obenya down for at least who wouldn't want a man. It was so on your beer, Obe protecting like or your whole chromo by perform or so on your Obi. No, back to a young uncle focus and now for you and now for you say, now
thank you very much. I think we're getting better now. So
that's what I said. Now will be I did be to one address.
What happened?
Won't mean hospital. It was so people say
today I got a very important call and I went to see
woman in Chobia Manica with him.
I went to see
the
Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, the only Archbishop we have. So he was quite upset and he said, you people,
there was someone can't fight, but we'll be back together. To prevent so Obi be catching no and now we catching na
Ghana has gone to IMF 18 times.
Obi 200 drink obetimi dia ba akwesa ayemene.
You are young, he's young, you people are fighting for what?
KG nko Obi so topic ni say akwesi na dey buy topic ni say
I'm going to call him to come.
Ebe say
other people there
Obi be date
etwem talk
na wanya Obi foforo na Obi ka dey etwem no ho asem na chena na say Obenya oba
I met for the second time. My new friend.
Like or past.
So we are not fighting, we are not fighting. This is an Apoku. He was in white. He came from the Alhaji Banda funeral, and I like to tell you, viewers and everybody who saw the show, that we have had a conversation. And it's fine. Do you want me to shift to the side of the script? We've had a conversation, and we are fine. We've understood each other. We are not fighting, we are good friends. We belong to different sides, yes, but we are still good friends. And even in the conversation, he said that you people, I said you to you people, I said you people, and then, but the Archbishop was in the middle, and thank God for the Archbishop. He chaired them in nice meeting. And because the Archbishop knows that I like nice food, when he finished, he brought plantain chips and hibiscus drink. It was fantastic. But thank you very much for the plantain chips. But he said something that was important. You see, he said that in Japan, young people are meeting.
Thank you very much.
Constitutional arrangement. Papa is very interested in the constitutional amendment. What kind of amendments we can make? He was telling me that. Why is it that in UK, only 1 month? They dissolve parliament 1 month for the election. I said, Papa, I've been talking about it forever. He said, no, but you people, that's why you should be fighting. You be fighting. So Nana Poku came, we shook hands. Put Nana Poku's photograph again. Nana Poku came, we shook hands, and he reminded me of different times that I had met him. I had met him in the United Kingdom. The last time I saw President Mahama, apparently, I think the last time I saw President Mahama, just before the campaign, I showed photographs at Heathrow Airport. He said he was the one who took the photographs. I saw President Mahama with some people. I went to speak to him and a doctor whom I knew. And I didn't remember the rest, but he said he was one of them. And he now came to tell me things that have happened since January and what has been going on, etc., etc. At some point, he was telling me about the government thing, so he paused because he realized that maybe the things he's telling me, but we shook hands. He's a good guy. He's a nice guy, and we apologize to each other. That was a good meeting. So please, Nana Poku is at the office of the boss. And so I didn't make it to the Alhaji Banda funeral, so I was in black. And viewers, sorry, those of you who are laughing at my shoes on program days. You see, because I was preparing on program days. Sometimes this is how I look. I apologize for it. When I saw the Archbishop, I said, "Papa, forgive me the way I look." He said, "But why?" I said, "I'm inside the work." He said, "It's okay. You're looking good." Yeah, and then so the Archbishop's house is an amazing place. So you should see it. He has a house in, I won't mention where it is, but it's in Accra, in a very good area, one of the best areas. I've not seen Joel for in a very, very long time, but I saw him today. So just to say that the Kumasi unfortunate story that I showed you has been overcome. Nana Poku and I are best of friends now, and we'll meet again. So Nana Poku, thank you very much. We'll meet again. Please put the Archbishop's photograph there. Let me ask for more of the plantain chips and the hibiscus tea. Papa, your love for this country and your love for the youth and how you want the youth to come together and help Ghana and forget about NDC, MPP. The youth must just push ahead, as you say, that we should push ahead, have ideas. He says sometimes you people, you don't even have ideas. How are we going to get the gold out of the ground, the diamond? He asked me that, are we going to sit down and go to the IMF the 19th time? I never thought about it. I never thought about that. He said, we've been to IMF 18 times. What is you, Paul, you, in your small way, what are you doing to ensure that we don't go to the IMF the 19th time? Nana Poku, what are you doing to ensure we don't go to the IMF? Why are you people fighting? Let us think about how we can resolve the problems of this country, because this country is a great country. And then we got into prophecy, what's going to happen in the next election. Papa was laughing. You see, Papa doesn't answer the question. I said, Papa, so who is going to win the next election? Then he laughed. He said, that's not important. Make sure that we don't go back to IMF. Make sure that we have a country. And then you people are always fighting. I told Papa that, but the NDC people, every time they are doing aura, what is all that? They said, but the NDC people say, you people too, you're still money too much. And I said, oh, Papa, but this, they are aura. He said, let us fix the country. If the country is fixed, there's no need for anybody to steal anything. But if you keep the country like this, then that's what is going to happen. So you people must come together and let's work. Let's find out. He said by now, he said the Dubai people, they have a 100-year plan. Japan, they have a 100-year plan. United Kingdom, they have a 100-year plan. Here in Ghana, even 1-year plan, if you ask, we don't have it. He said, if you ask Ghana that next year by this time, what kind of roads do we want to see? But I forgot to tell Papa that Nimoy Thompson has a 40-year plan, but you are not using it. So, Papa, thank you very much. That's your commitment to the youth and your commitment to the nation, that we must not go to the IMF the 19th time. I'm sure that once you do the spiritual side, the physical side will be done, and we will not go to the IMF the 19th time. Thank you very much, the commanding Archbishop. So that's our story. That's what happened today. We had this meeting, and everything is okay. All right, let's move now to political TikTok. There had been some violence on social media today. Please, I'm talking about A+ and the Attorney General. There's been some serious violence on the social media. Do you know what A+ is talking about? Are they going to get it for me? I want Archbishop's pictures to leave. They're going to get it for me? Oh, it's not ready yet. Okay, so what do they want me to do? Political TikTok? Sorry, viewers, the screen is disturbing. Fortunately, we have 2 interviews, so we might not need it that much. So should we go and run our first interview? Okay. Well, I'm so disoriented. Sorry, viewers. Okay, let me take the second break. And let's prepare ourselves. I don't know whether Dennis has been sabotaging the program. Dennis, how can you, my IT guy? Maybe it's NDC. Do we have a second break? We have a second break. Viewers, I'm sorry, let's take the second break. About 4 is in the studio. Glory for everybody is coming, and then we'll have our conversation. But I need to show you certain things. I have a political TikTok. I have Kobe Mensah's video. I have a few things to show you, but the screen is frustrating us. We'll be right back after the break. It's with a deep sense of gratitude that I stand here to present a tribute to Alhaji Asuma Banda, who died recently at a very old age. All of us young people had many encounters with Alhaji Banda, and we are excited that he allowed us into his corridor. I have a personal experience with Alhaji. When I was studying in London, whenever he came to town, he would call me, and I'll go to his place in St. John's Wood, his office in St. John's Wood, and Alhaji will be able to manufacture wache in those places. And we had a very interesting time. I'd been going to Alhaji and learning a lot from him. One of the things that Alhaji would always say, in those days when I sit with him, I ask him that, Alhaji, are you rich? And that's always the question I ask him. He appeared on Good Evening Ghana once or twice, but I think Alhaji's best interview was one that he did with TV3 on hot issues. That was a very, very good interview, and I really enjoyed it. But sitting with Alhaji and you ask him, are you rich? And then he will laugh at you. And you ask you that, what is rich? And you ask him that he should tell you. So Alhaji had a definition of who is rich. And Alhaji Banda told me that who is rich is this: if you can do the thing that you want to do at the time that you want to do it, then you are rich. And it stayed with me for a long time. Many times we had that encounter. He always asked me, what did I tell you about rich? I said, if you can do the thing that you want to do at the time that you want to do it. So the first time he told me, I said, Alhaji, break it down. He said, okay, so I'm Alhaji Banda, I want a Mercedes Benz. I don't have to now be calling a bank and write a check and looking for loan. That's not rich. You want a bank, you just call the bank and then you get a loan. Alhaji Banda also revolutionized our airspace. Amtrak Air, for those of us who are old, Amtrak Air was really the go-to aircraft to go into Kumasi. Those days I used to work for Asante Kotoko. Amtrak Air was such a useful, very, very useful addition to Ghana's aviation sector. Alhaji also had Maersk Line, so he was in aviation and he was on in the port. Alhaji did such an excellent job for Ghana. I call him the emeritus entrepreneur of Ghana, Alhaji Asuma Banda. May he rest in peace. We all know Alhaji Banda for many, many things, including the fact that he was very close friends with John Agyekum Kufuor. Often, when you ask Alhaji, how old are you? He'll tell you a great story. And I'm sure that today that Alhaji has passed, some of us say he's 97, some say he's 96, some say he's 95. I'm sure the family would know. But Alhaji, in describing to you how old he was, will always use a very interesting story. He will tell you that if you want to know how old he is, this is the story. He will tell you that he used to hold John Agyekum Kufuor's hand, the president, John Agyekum Kufuor. He will tell you, I used to hold John Agyekum Kufuor's hand. And he calls him Kofi. He always calls him Kofi. He will tell you, I used to hold Kofi's hand to cross the road to go to government boys' school in Asokwa. Was it Asokwa where it was? I think so. No, it wasn't Asokwa. I think it was KJT somewhere, Kumasi. So Alhaji will say that if I'm holding his hand to cross the road, then I must have been about 9 or 8 years older than him. So if you want to know his age, take John Kufuor's age and then add 9 or 8, and Alhaji says you'll find his age, because you really could not tell how old Alhaji was. He was strong, he was agile, he was funny, he was interesting, he was a man with great humility, and Alhaji Banda did so much, so much for Ghana. In 1996, he was the one who brought the MPP and the CPP together to form what they call the Great Alliance, which never was in those days. In 96, they were defeated by Fly Lieutenant Rawlings. But Alhaji indicated that he was prepared to spend a lot of his fortunes to set up Ghana's democracy right. In the book that we wrote, we have, I think, some lines about Alhaji Banda's commitment to the Fourth Republican democracy. He's one of the people who is really, really committed his resources to this Fourth Republican democracy up to 1997, including the year 2000. In 2000, Alhaji sacrificed almost everything to make his friend Kofi president. And I remember very well the first event that President Kufuor attended, even before his inauguration, after he had won the 28 December second round. The first event was, I think, 3rd or 4th January. It was the celebrated birthday of Alhaji's wife, Baba Banda. Baba was turning 40, and Kufuor attended as president-elect. It was a very big honor for Alhaji Banda. He was very excited on that day. Alhaji Banda is also credited for bringing in Francis Poku, who became a stalwart to John Agyekum. getting somewhere with the screen, and Gloria Foibodo has taken her seat as well. The violence on social media this afternoon was amazing. Kwame A+, what is happening? What's the matter? What is the issue? He says, you are corrupt and a thief. If you joke with me, I will expose you more. A+ fires at, hey, please, these are the words of Kwame A+. They are by no means our words. We do not know about what he's saying. But he's talking about the government lawyer, the leader of the Bar Association, the leader of the Ghana Bar Association, the Learned Attorney General, a member of the General Legal Council, a member of the Judicial Council, the most important barrister in Ghana, the Attorney General. Kwame A+, a member of parliament on the side of the Attorney General's party, says, you, the Attorney General, you are corrupt and a thief. Hey, if you joke with me, I will expose you. When I saw, everybody sent it to me. I said, hey, wait. So I was trying to reach A+. I couldn't reach him because we've been talking over the last, we've texted a few times. You know, I even invited him to come on the show. Let's talk about the 400,000 wahala. But this is what he said. Now, viewers, I don't know whether you get my confusion. A+ is on the side of the NDC. He's not MP, he's NDC. Many years ago, he played Abenbebo, Okujeto, Nipa Befa, Contrast Beba, Okujeto, Nipa Befa, and all that. But that's okay. But today, he goes after the boss of Oral. Operation Recover All Loots, their boss, Dominic Ayine. I don't think any member of parliament in the history of the Fourth Republic has said such dastardly things about the Attorney General. It's never happened. For the period I've covered politics in Ghana, I have never seen. Okay, let's go to the Attorney General. So we started with Tony Forson. And forgive me, I should have made a correction. The other day, I put the former Attorney Generals on TV, and I referred to a man as Col Swansea. It's actually Anthony Forson Sr., because his son called me. He's a very good brother of mine. He called me and said, oh, but you put the old man on and you said he's Col Swansea. I said, yeah, I beg. And I have not been able to correct it. Just okay to you. I'm very happy I've remembered. So that photograph I showed today, our touch screen is not reliable, so I can't go back to it. But I'm sure in subsequent programs I'll go back to it. The photograph was Anthony Forson. So that was Anthony Forson. Then there was Obeda Samoa, of course, for the long time. Then there was Nana Akufo-Addo. Then there was Papa Usman Nkrumah. Or was it Ayikwe Otu? No, Papa Usman Nkrumah. Then there was Ayikwe Otu. Then there was Joe Gate. Then there was Betty Mould Idrisu. Then there was my lecturer, Benjamin Kumbo. Then there was Martin Amidu. Then there was Marietta Brew. And then Gloria Ekufu, Godfrey Dame, and Dominic Ayine. No Attorney General, it's never happened, has had a member of parliament use these words about him. You are corrupt and a thief. Hey, Kwame A+, are you sure that against the most important barrister in Ghana, you can prove these things in a proper forum, not in a conversation forum like Metro TV? We are not under oath at Metro TV. On Good Evening Ghana, nobody is under oath. But Kwame A+, if you get into a proper forum, will you be able to prove these things? But A+ seems very confident. He seems very, very, very confident. He says the Attorney General is corrupt and he's a thief. And that if he jokes with him, he will expose him. But the thing I don't like about these people on social media is a threat. If you do, I'll say, if the man has done something wrong, and there's something wrong he's done is against the Republic, it's against democracy, let's say it. They always threaten. Okay, maybe A+ wants a call. He wants to get a call and then they will settle it. I'm guessing so. Maybe there's a call somewhere. Attorney General, if you call A+ and settle it, it means you have something to hide, though. Attorney General, if you don't allow the bout to happen, the WBC bout, if you don't allow it to happen, and you make a phone call or you get some people to make a phone call to Ofa Kwame, and Ofa Kwame doesn't continue, we will know that a phone call has been done. And it will make people worry because there are some people who trust you, Attorney General. They think that you are clean and they think that A+ will clear off. And they are celebrating you tonight in spite of this. So if they hear that you have made a call and something, so, but A+ too, the words are too strong. Corrupt and a thief. A thief, pa. The Attorney General is a thief. The boss of Oral, Operation Recover All Loot. I saw a social media post from an NDC lady that said that Operation Recover All Loot has now become Operation Recover and Keep. And I said, what is going on here? So I sent it on NDC people that, hey, there's a problem in your place. So your lady, one of your loudest ladies on social media says that Operation Recover All Loot has become Operation Recover and Keep. Are they recovering and keeping it? Then we should go and catch them, the people who are recovering and keeping it. Because if you recover, you send it to Bank of Ghana. Or you send it to Ghana Revenue Authority. But if you recover and you keep, 3 months into John Mohammed's administration, and our 100-day documentary is being prepared. Today, the guys reminded me that we have 7 days for the 100-day documentary, boss. Are you ready? I said, Charlie, the pressure. Anyway, we'll get it done. We'll get it done. So, viewers, I'm sharing this with you so that you can also share it with other people and let us together see whether we can get to the bottom of the matter. Because the learned Attorney General has been accused of corruption. We don't have much time. Let me just take Gloria Faribodu's conversation. And Auntie Gloria, I had introduced you as the founder of civil society in Ghana. And I've never had the opportunity to say this to you, but it's amazing to see you still around. The work that you and Oye did to encourage women into politics, it was amazing. And I had the privilege of being a reporter, following you around everywhere and doing your press conferences.
From Joy, right?
Those days I was at Joy, yes. I remember when you guys picked the forms to run district assembly elections, just to encourage women to do it. You guys did a fantastic job. I don't remember what your role at FIDA was at the time, but I think you had...
I was the executive director.
Yes, you were the executive director of FIDA, yes. And yes. That's the umbrella that you had used to move on this thing. And you were very much appreciated by the Gladys Asmes, Christine Checha, Comfort Owusu, and all of those people. Yes. You did such a fantastic job.
Supportive of me.
But in this country, we don't often remember these things. I mean, those people like you and Oye were those who made women want to participate in public life at the beginning. Because we had just come from the coup, and all the women were not interested in this public life thing. But you moved on and encouraged the young people, and then today you have young people in parliament. I mean, we couldn't have thought about in 96 that we have a 30-something-year-old woman in parliament. Today we have them, and I think it's credit to you. You've done a fantastic and amazing job. So when I heard that you were worried about something, I was worried too, that when people like Gloria Faribodu are worried, because I'm sure you sat back knowing that the work has been achieved, it's going on. Young people, young women are participating. But when I heard on Asasi Radio that Gloria is talking about something she's worried about, I said, hey, no. That's why I called you, and thank you for coming. So you are worried about the Chief Justice processes. But the Constitution guarantees it, says that where you want to, the Constitution knew that maybe one day we might want to remove a Chief Justice. So it puts it there. What's the problem with that, Auntie Gloria?
Well, don't forget that we have the Constitution in law and in practice. We are a constitutional democracy, right? We are just 30-something years old. The presidential system of government that we are looking at, which is the United States system, has never removed the Chief Justice. And I mean never.
Do they have those provisions?
Never. The provisions are there in theory, okay? But in practice, they have never, okay? When you go to their constitution, yes, a Chief Justice of the U.S. can be removed through an impeachment process. First, impeachment by the House, by a simple majority vote, and then a trial in the Senate. The only time they tried to use it, only one Supreme Court Justice, Samuel Chase, in 1804. Even then, he was acquitted during trial by the Senate. So, in a matter of constitutional democracy, there are some offices that are untouchable. That's all I'm saying. And one of those offices is the judiciary, and particularly the head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice. Unless we want to remove the Chief Justice every month, then let's look at the president. Even with the president, the Constitution provides for the removal of the president. And one of them, which made me laugh, was that if the president does not, is performing something which is inimical to the economy or the security of the state. And I'm like, economy, then we'll remove our president with every budget.
Read that provision again, Article what?
Oh, Article 69, Clause 1, 3, First, the president, the grounds on which he can be removed, which is similar to grounds on which our judiciary, our Chief Justice can be removed. Willful violation of his oath of office, and then conducting himself.
I like the economic thing.
In
That's
a
what I want to
manner.
hear. 69.3, you said?
No, 69.1, Article 69.1, Article 69, Clause 1.
Okay, I got it.
2.
69.1. Okay,
1,
it says
B2.
B2, eh?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's say it says the president shall be removed from office if he is found in accordance with the provisions of this article A to have acted in willful violation of the oath of allegiance and the presidential oath set out in the second schedule 2, or in willful violation of any provision of this or of this constitution. Yeah, you're right. We can get it.
Or to have conducted himself in a manner.
To have conducted himself in a manner which brings or is likely to bring the high office of president into disrepute, ridicule or contempt. Oh, we can get plenty.
Or
prejudicial or inimical to the economy
or the security of the state.
Inimical to the economy. Somebody can say that the president passed e-levy. It's inimical to the economy, so we should go ahead.
I mean, so at the end of the day, it's so ridiculous. It's never done. And when we look at C, it says, incapable of performing the functions of his office by reason of infirmity or body, okay, of body or mind. Look at, we had a situation where President John Evans Atta Mills, may his soul rest in peace, one of my best lecturers, was,
incapacitated,
yes,
health-wise.
Yes, but we never did that. We never dreamt of removing.
We didn't even start it.
No,
I think you're right.
It's a constitutional democracy.
In the US,
look at even the Democrats.
Justice Rehnquist, the Chief Justice, got to the point where he could not even walk. When he's sitting, he slumps his chair back and nobody knows whether he's asleep. But nobody removed him.
How about President Biden, who said finally that he himself will not contest elections? There were so many times, a number of times that he was believed to have fainted or fallen
that's
or
clear.
something.
Fainting in public is obvious that you are not strong.
But for the sake of constitutional democracy, which we believe in for purposes of our development, our future, and sustainability of our youth, their development, we don't mess with our democracy. We don't mess
So
with
what
our
do we do
democracy.
with the Chief Justice who is doing something wrong?
Doing something wrong?
Yes, or has done something wrong.
Doing something wrong.
Yes.
Who is the one to tell us who is doing something wrong?
But there are provisions in the law.
Yes, there are provisions.
Article 146.
There are provisions also under Article 69
for the
of
president.
the economy. Yes.
So you're saying that when somebody becomes president and somebody becomes Chief Justice, we can sympathize with the president because he's directly elected by the people. But a Chief Justice is appointed, and you say that somebody will ask you, is he above the law?
The role of the Chief Justice and the role of the president are sacrosanct to our constitutional democracy.
Does it include the vice president?
They have similar provisions. When you look at the Speaker of Parliament, when you look at the MPs, it talks of how they will vacate their offices. It's silent on removal because there are processes on how a speaker can vacate his office or how an MP shall vacate his seat. But if you realize with the removal, there's only the position of the president akin to the position of the Chief Justice. So my question is, those who drafted the Constitution knew exactly why there are provisions for the removal of the president, which is the grounds. The grounds are similar to that of the, Chief Justice. And when we look at it, so it means that it's in theory, but it shouldn't happen.
It's in theory, but it shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't. Otherwise, we'll change our presidents every
when you say that, when somebody becomes Chief Justice,
and then we'll also change our Chief Justice. You remember the last Chief Justice? We kept reading about petitions, but the Supreme Court did not.
No, the president dismissed those petitions. President Akufo-Addo dismissed several petitions of Chief Justice.
Doche and all of them. They did not go into that because they understand the import of the judiciary and the position of Chief Justice to our constitutional democracy. Let's not treat our democracy with frivolity because it took ages to get even. At first, all the coups came in after 3 years of a democratic government. This is the first time in 32 or 3 years that we've had a sustained democracy. Are we thinking of a democracy that the rules and the principles and the practices are changed at the whims and caprices of parties, political parties, ethnic groups, civil society leaders, individuals? Let's not be frivolous. Let's not toy with our constitutional democracy. A president has never been removed, even though there are grounds for it in practice. Likewise, a chief justice has not and should not be, because before the person gets to that position, we know what they go through. You should be a person of moral, you have to be high moral standard.
You are paid for Parliament's Appointments Committee. All the time they do.
Yes, and you should have
I
gone
think you are right, because the Chief Justice can be sued whilst as Chief Justice if there's a problem. He can be sued, can't he? Yes, a Chief Justice can be sued.
Which article are you referring to?
No, I'm just saying that as part of the remedies, where somebody will say that, do you therefore mean that somebody becomes a Chief Justice above the law? One of the remedies is that you can take legal action against the Chief Justice. If for some reason, Eniyabwa was sued, wasn't he, by these
But you can't
people.
remove a Chief Justice.
No, not the removal. I'm just saying that the remedy, not suing the person to remove the person, but when the person has done something wrong, you can take legal action.
Whatever can be done that will not threaten our constitutional democracy,
we should do it.
In practice is in order. But not when we are just nurturing our democracy and then we are listening to everybody and jumping and running around looking to remove our Chief Justice or, our president. It doesn't work that way. We know why.
Are you worried because you heard something?
Heard what? I've not heard anything. We've all heard about so many petitions, but I think they should be, 1 or 2 petitions or something, but I think that they should be treated with the disdain and the contempt that they so,
Are you saying that because
I don't see why.
There had been petitions against the Chief Justice, but we didn't hear you speak. There was a petition against Justice Tokonu. In the last days of Akufo, there was a petition against Justice Cotton.
But there was one against Justice
Sophia. Yes.
Yeah, there have always been something.
But you didn't complain about those like you're doing now.
Oh, I think I didn't complain about it because it was treated with the disdain and contempt that it should be treated.
And you are suspecting this one might not be treated with the disdain and contempt?
This one, I'm in the studio because you find that something which is of, public interest. The public interest, and I'm here to inform the public, just as you also owe a responsibility to the public, that we should, as usual, look at our constitutional democracy. And then anything that threatens the removal of a president or the removal of the Chief Justice should not be, even condoned or even.
So are you advising the Council of States in free advice that they should dismiss the application? They should not find the prima facie. If the time comes for them to do that, they shouldn't. Or are you expecting the Supreme Court to grant the injunction? What is your expectation?
The Council of States is also provided for under the Constitution, yes. Right? And they are also supposed to uphold the constitutional democracy of our baby, our baby democracy. So I will humbly, advise the President, the Council of States, the Supreme Court justices, all those who are, in theory, expected to be involved with the removal of the CJ, to look at our constitution that in practice it's never been done. America, which we are emulating, has never done it. And we can't also do that unless we want our presidents and especially the two key institutions which the Constitution has provided for with similar grounds for removal, unless we want to look at them as something that we can just brush aside. The president, when you look at the removal of president, the president transcends partisanship. The Chief Justice and the judiciary are transcending partisanship. It's only Parliament and the Speaker, the legislature, where they talk of vacation of seats. And we know seats are usually partisan. Vacation of seats. And the Speaker can either be, appointed from members of Parliament or those who are qualified to be members of Parliament. That's where the partisanship comes in. And so they don't even have provisions on removal. But when it comes to the Chief Justice, who is the fourth, most
important, yeah.
The fourth person in our constitutional democracy, and then you come to the President, who is the first person. It transcends party lines. It transcends. There's nothing about vacation of seats. The president has his term, and the Chief Justice has his or her term.
Is it because the Chief Justice is a woman that you are more concerned about, which will still be legitimate, but is it because of that? Yes, madam.
I wonder sometimes. I really wonder, because I remember the last time I was on Asasi Radio, where I made my submissions. One of the panelists mentioned, oh, you know, and the woman and all that. I asked him to retract that statement because from experience, when people start looking at the gender, you know, we have to look at the opposition as a position of constitutional authority, irrespective of whether of the gender of the occupant. But when people start zooming into gender of the occupant, then you start looking at the problem of subtle or unconscious sexism or bigotry.
I apologize. I'm not doing that.
I'm not. So when the what do you call it? The panelist said, "Oh, and the woman," I said, "Hey, please be careful. It ranks of sexism, it ranks of bigotry. But please, maybe you are not aware. So I'm just giving you that information." And he said, "Oh, okay." Some of them said, "Okay, he didn't mean anyhow." But we are women. We've come through a lot, and I would say that I don't want to believe it's because of the gender. That would be so pathetic, and that would be so unfortunate, because when it comes to qualification, the Chief Justice, irrespective of her gender, has risen through the ranks.
We've gone beyond that in Ghana. We've had 3 female Chief Justices. So we've gone beyond. I'm just saying that is your interest heightened because it's a woman?
My interest is heightened first because of constitutional democracy. Okay, and then I would say that my interest is also heightened because of how the public is going on about it, and statements like, "Oh, the woman," and I'm like, she's not an ordinary woman. She's qualified.
She's
experienced. She has the expertise. She's been on the bar. She's been on the bench for ages. What else do we want? Let's.
So you don't want us to even consider the petition, whether it's reasonable, you know.
Please.
You don't want us to go into all that?
Please. The practice has been not to consider these petitions because they are frivolous and they should be treated with the contempt that they deserve.
How do you know the petition is frivolous? Have you seen the petition?
Did we ever see any of those
No,
petitions?
we don't see it. It's in camera, blah, blah,
exactly.
blah.
We didn't see any of those
But you said
petitions.
they are frivolous.
We didn't, because at the end of the day, we are looking at the practice, and upholding our constitutional democracy, and not allowing it to be, you know, wrecked into pieces by individuals, by parties, by political groupings, by, you know, people's prejudices and bigotry.
Final question for you. I heard that there's conversations at the constitutional amendment, Dr. Kwesi Prempeh's place, where they are suggesting to the constitutional amendment that if we have a new constitution, Article 146 should be taken out, and that the appointments of the Chief Justice, for the appointment of the Chief Justice, political interference should be taken out. The president should not have any roles to play in it. There should be a way in which the Judicial Council can come up with somebody as the Chief Justice, and the person goes to Parliament, and that this issue about impeachment of that person should be completely scrapped. Do you subscribe to something like that?
I would say that in established democracies, you know, they look at the executive, the judiciary, the legislature. The executive is akin to the judiciary. Okay. Recently, when on 7th January, if you remember, 7th January 2025, when we had no president for a few hours. There was no president.
Yes.
There was no vice president.
There was the Chief Justice in charge.
There was no Speaker of Parliament. The Chief Justice was in charge because the Constitution says so. There was no vacuum of authority.
Yeah.
And because of that, we should realize that if we want our country to progress, if we want us to develop, and we don't want to descend into the previous, you know, lawless, era of coup d'etats and lawlessness, and kangaroo courts and lack of natural justice and all that, then please, it behoves on all of us, particularly the youth who are up and coming, to ensure that our constitutional democracy is upheld, the institutions are supported, respected, and we do not allow any frivolity to destroy our institutions. Because when we have constitutional democracy, we get our development.
Very well said. Very well said, Gloria Foyibuedu. We'll follow up. We'll follow up with what happens in the process. Now we know that there's an injunction.
I don't think we should spend our taxpayers' money on any process that will undermine our constitutional democracy. And so I'm calling on the people of Ghana, especially the youth, that this is your future at stake. Okay, some of us have retired, we are moving on, but if you want development, I have lived through coups and lawlessness, and I've lived through a constitutional democracy, and I know the benefits. Fight for it, stand for it, and don't allow anyone to mess it up.
That's wise words from Gloria Foyibuedu. Let's go to Commonwealth Hall, the Vandals charge, and then we'll come back and continue with the show. We have to see your Gloria Foyibuedu very nicely.
Thank you.
Now you be Oga. Oh, good evening. Now you be Oga. Good evening. Now you be Oga. Now you be Oga. Oh, good evening. Now you be Oga. Good evening. Now you be Oga. Now you be Oga. Oh, good evening. Now you be Oga. Good evening. Now you be Oga.
Lawyer Bafo is here, great lawyer. But let me just take some text messages from Lawyer Bafo. They admire your grey blazers. It came on the TV. It was very nice. All right. So, Ella, let's start with you. What are people saying? Just maybe one each or two each.
Seem to agree with Madam Gloria. Others do not. This one is from Augustine. He says, Madam, please organize a peaceful demonstration and we will join you. Thank you so much for your intervention. The Ghanaian public is definitely too quiet on the issue. And lastly, from Samuel, he said, yesterday I had some excerpts from the 3 petitions put forward to expand the leadership Chief Justice. And I asked my colleagues who I shared the program with, who are the composers of the Presidential Advisory Team. Such an infertile petition to remove such a respectable officer is laughable. Are we serious in the nation building? At the caliber of the president and some political experience that he has acquired, does not permit him to entertain such frivolous execution. It will hang up to hurt his prosperity if he accomplishes this disdainful request from those proponents. Paul, Madam Gloria is the true daughter of Achim Asafo, South future member of Parliament. Advertise for her, please. All right, yes, so that is from Samuel. Right, what do you have for us?
Yes, so Bennett Dancer says, isn't it shocking that a political persecution riding on the back of frivolous petitions by anonymous petitioners seeking to remove the revered female CJ of our apex courts, and all the women in the country are quiet. This petition is politically motivated, and all the women must rise up and protest the CJ's removal. And he adds a hashtag, say no to dictatorship. Now, Belkin seems to disagree with our guest. He says the arguments seem to lack legal and intellectual depth because grounded petitions against the CJ cannot be swept under the carpet. Moses Echampon is in agreement. He says a good point by your guest. The petition is becoming one too many, hence the need to entrench the process. We must protect our democracy at all times. Now, Fred Mason Yanko says the plan to remove the Chief Justice was a plan by the NDC in opposition. The removal is a plan for the NDC to appoint a new Chief Justice that would empanel the NDC biased judges to allow John Mahama contest for a third term in office. Another plot is to remove the electoral commissioners, and one of the ways is to remove the Chief Justice so they can run with all the evil agenda they have. What do you have for us?
From Anthony Mensah, he says all these things that they are doing is just to cover their manifesto of 24 hours economy. From Reverend Elisha, he says, good evening, Paul. Yesterday was Madame Guerre's birthday, wishing her God's blessing. And lastly, from Mike, he says, let's all come together to fight this galamsey since it's causing more harm than good. Haji says, please, Mr. Paul, activate your text lines available on your screen. Okay, over to you, Paul.
All right, thank you. Let's get straight to the point, Lawyer Balfour. Yesterday, what happened? How was your day yesterday before you found yourself among policemen?
You know, yesterday I was in chambers. You know, Parliament is on recess. So yesterday I was in chambers around 1 o'clock, sitting behind my desk working, when Reverend Intim Fojo reached out to me that this is what is happening. So
what did he say?
He said that he had security men armed to the teeth who are taking siege of his house. And so, you know, I should come over. I also reached out to leadership. Apparently, he had also reached out to leadership of the Minority Caucus. There was subsequent publication on our WhatsApp platforms. And so, you know, I quickly stepped out of my office and then, you know, headed to his place. When I got there, in fact, I was one of the first people to have gotten there from the Minority Caucus. But when I got there, the general secretary of our party was also there. And I was shocked to see over 20 men, security personnel in the house, coming for Reverend Intim Fojo. And, you know, at that point, this is the image that played out in my mind. I looked at the size of Reverend Intim Fojo. I compared him to myself, my build, my height. And I wondered, why would you want to come for this man? You know, his size, not huge, not tall, not big, right? With the greatest of respect, allow me to use the word smallish. With 20 security men.
Maybe they are worried he has a gun.
That is speculated.
Yeah, I'm just explaining why they could come with that many men.
But Paul, this is a member of parliament. This is the ranking member for security and for interior and defense.
So he's your shadow interior minister?
Yes. This is a third-term parliamentarian. This is a former deputy minister of state. How do you want to approach him this way? How?
The point you're making is that he has such a stake that he's not running away anywhere. So you want something from him, you can get it.
How can he be a threat?
Yes,
in any event, the press conference he organized, he did so in his capacity as the ranking member for the minority.
What was the charge? What is the allegation? What was the concern?
They said they wanted him for interrogation.
About what?
Strangely, when I got there, in his living room, there were 2 security persons who hold themselves as security persons seated. Then they said, I can look at their ID cards. Strangely, they didn't have their names on their ID cards. They only had their pictures. So it didn't even qualify for an identity card.
Name?
No name.
An ID card with no name?
Have NIB on it, no name. So it doesn't even qualify for...
With a photograph?
With a photograph.
But no name?
No name. Because you see, what makes an ID card unique is the fact that it's corresponding to your photograph.
Yes.
Because
so that you were able to access it?
Yeah.
So that was them, the photo, or you didn't look at it?
But they were seated there. I didn't need a picture to see that they are the person seated there.
Okay.
It is the name that will correspond to them for me to know who they are.
Did you tell them there's no name on the card?
I told them.
They said what?
They said that is how they operate. You know,
they don't want to be targeted or something.
But if you don't want to be targeted, then you should find a better way of doing your job. You can use the police and so on and so forth to do it, because the police are statutorily built, to deal with the public.
But up till now, you still don't know the concern. Are they chasing him for stealing, fraud?
Let me tell you one funny thing that even occurred there. They didn't even have a warrant. And so we asked for a warrant. And one of them said, the face of a senior officer constitutes a warrant.
Did he know you were speaking to a lawyer?
At the time he made that statement, I wasn't the only lawyer there. My senior and distinguished lawyer, Atachia, was there.
Did he know he was talking to lawyers?
And we laughed.
He said his face
constitutes a warrant. And they said...
these things can be frightening, though. Is this democracy thing?
They were operating under instructions, and that they should... they've been instructed to bring him for interrogation in respect of comments that he's been making on air. But question is this, Paul. The minority cannot all speak simultaneously. They will definitely elect somebody to speak on their behalf. And in this instance, somebody of ranking status, right, of a specialized or select committee. Are you saying that anytime a member of the minority caucus speaks and you are not comfortable with it, you are going to arrest the person? Is that what we are saying? More importantly, following the press conference, the president's reaction was that, he was interested in the matter, in a nutshell, he was interested in the matter, and that he was instructing the security agencies to cooperate with them.
That was his post. Yeah, that's what he first posted. I don't know whether we have that post, though, but we were working on it today. That was the president's first post, yes.
The follow-up question is that, was the arrest yesterday, or was the intended arrest yesterday, right, what the president meant by instructions to have him cooperate? He was speaking for the minority. So then why didn't they arrest the whole of the minority?
No, but the president said he was going to investigate. That's the first thing he said. Then later, Felix Kwachu, the government communication minister. Okay, that must be the president's document. What does it say? Let me just read it. It says, my attention has been drawn to allegations made at a press conference by an honorable member of parliament, Reverend Ntim Fojo, regarding 2 suspicious flights arriving at the Kotoka International Airport. Now, the president used the term 2 suspicious flights without putting inverted commas in there, so he kind of agrees with it. Arriving at the Kotoka International Airport, suspected to be involved in drug trafficking and money laundering. Government takes all allegations seriously, and to ensure a thorough and transparent investigation, I have directed all relevant investigative agencies, including the Narcotics Control Board, the Police CID, and the National Investigations Bureau, the NIB, the National Security Coordinator, to immediately and fully collaborate with the Honorable Member of Parliament so he provides all necessary information to investigate the allegations and take all action necessary to expose any drug dealing. We will maintain zero tolerance for using Ghana as a transit or final destination for drugs or drug trafficking. The NIB made a high-profile bust of drugs last week with a street value of 350 million. So this is what the president said.
Commendable.
So what changed?
Nobody knows what changed. But if the posture of elements of government, spokespersons, right, is anything to go by, then clearly something must have changed that we did not know since the president had...
Let's watch Felix Kwakye Ofosu on with Obi. Lawyer Obi on Asempa and Felix Kwakye Ofosu. They spoke. Let's see the video.
That is president. He is a very tolerant individual. If I was the president, I won't tolerate this because it's a waste of time.
Really?
Obi, that is president. He is a very tolerant individual. If I was the president, I won't tolerate this because it's a waste of time.
Really?
Obi, that is president. He is a very tolerant individual. If I was the president, I won't tolerate this because it's a waste of time.
Ofosu must have been part of putting the president's statement out. Definitely. That's his job. Then he says that if he said President Mahama is tolerable, but if he is president, he won't tolerate any of this.
Is that not curious? Let me tell you the curiosity in this. My brother Felix, whom I have a lot of respect for, does not work, right, in any of the security agencies. He doesn't work at the Ghana Airport Company. He doesn't work for the Narcotics Commission. Mm-hmm. He doesn't work for National Intelligence Bureau, right? He doesn't work for the Ghana Police Service. He is only briefed. Mm-hmm. He is only briefed. And so he could not, or let me put it this way, it is very erroneous for him to sound as confident as he did in here, right? Because, Paul, he has been in government before. This is not his first time in being in government. And he should know better. He should know that there are times when you are even misled. There are times when even you are even misinformed by the people that will give you information to put out, right? And so you should always err on the side of caution. And this is one of the biggest errors we do make as politicians. I would say there are two errors. The first error is that we tend to think that once we take political position, we are wiser than everybody. In fact, sometimes we tend to think that we are wiser than people who are more brilliant than us even in class. Sometimes we tend to think that we are wiser than even people who have been more successful in life. Once we take
private life.
In private life. Once we take public office, it is wrong.
And have a Land Cruiser and air conditioning.
Yes, this is the mistake.
Please find that video for me, my friend Bobby's video, Land Cruiser and air conditioning.
This is the biggest, this is some of the mistakes we've been making. Another mistake is that we forget that apart from the people who were appointed together with ourselves when we take office, most of the people around, we inherit them, right? And oftentimes, they are not the angels they make us believe they are. And so when information comes to you, you have to be careful, right? And more importantly, this information, this press conference by the minority was had at the time when there had been two major drug busts in this country.
As the president himself referred to.
As the president himself referred to. $350 million. $150 million. Put together how much? $500 million.
$500 million.
$500 million.
More than what we're asking IMF to give us.
And so, to the extent that you yourself, you are not, right, a staff of the Ghana Airport Company, you are not a security person, you are only a spokesperson sitting at the Flagstaff House. You cannot be everywhere all the time. You should treat with circumspection information that you receive. You might not know, as they say in Chi, somebody may be Obi did go about the same. You understand? And so you have to be careful, right? And that is why I find his posture unfortunate in the interview with Asempa, right? Because Reverend Ntim Fodjo, speaking for the minority, what have we got to gain? Already, if you look at the press statement, he commended the security forces, the security agencies. He commended them for the work they have done and the transparency, right, with which they have treated all these incidents. Because in his words, right, they made known some of the arrests that they have, made. So if somebody is doing this, right, can you say he's being mischievous? He's raising valid points. Oh, look, let's ask ourselves, the persons who were involved in the 2 cocaine arrests, where are they?
They haven't said. They have not told us.
Nobody has briefed us, right? When Mr. Dubois was being taken to court, we saw him in handcuffs, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
The Attorney General said to us that he wanted to be as transparent as possible.
Yes.
Is that not the case?
He said so.
That's
an interesting one. We have not been told anything after. I think I saw somebody write on Facebook that, hey, what happened to the 350?
We have not been told anything.
Hey, Paul, is there something going on?
I don't know. But Paul, what I know from my work and knowledge within, in terms of intelligence, Paul, hardly will any drug baron allow drugs of that magnitude, right, to be detained. Hardly. You know that.
But if he's arrested, the drug will be detained.
And that is why we are asking questions.
But where is the cocaine?
Yes, because we know how these people operate. Paul, if a drug baron, right, feels outsmarted by a partner, he comes after the partner, true or false?
True, they kill you straight.
They kill you
They
straight.
shoot you down.
If a drug baron feels that you are intruded into his area of trade, they come after you.
What are you suggesting?
I am saying that we need more information on this, given our knowledge of the operation of drug barons.
Where was the drug busted?
It was busted, the $351 million, it was busted on its way from Cape Coast, from the information, to Accra.
The drug was in Cape Coast?
Was being transported from Cape Coast to Accra.
But didn't it leave Accra to Cape Coast?
No, we don't know where it was coming from.
And they arrested the vehicle?
What we know is where it was arrested.
It's a vehicle?
It's a vehicle.
What type of vehicle?
Let me check and give you the details.
So somebody was driving the car?
Somebody was driving a car. It had a driver and a mate, right? It was covered with sand. The police, the National Intelligence Bureau, right, removed the sand, went underneath, and then
they found it.
They found it. We are saying that, right?
So where is the driver of the car?
The national security will have to brief us. Nobody is briefing us.
But it's been too long.
It's been too long, since March. And then Reverend Ntim Fordjour is saying that the transparency with which you did the arrest and the disclosure of it, right, do the same with these suspicious aircraft that have come to Ghana. My brother, he didn't accuse government. He didn't blame the president. He said the security agency should give us briefing. Felix, does he work for the security agency? He's the spokesperson for the president. NACOC is an independent statutory authority. Felix doesn't speak for it, right? Felix doesn't speak for National Intelligence Bureau, right? Questions are being asked, answers are being demanded from the security agencies.
But Felix went on to show the profile of those aircrafts and said that these 4 aircrafts came to do, he explained why they were in Ghana and that they have left. Except, of course, we found out that one of the aircrafts had not left. Yeah.
Subsequently, Reverend Ntim Fordjour produced evidence of inconsistency.
He did, yeah.
Right, on your show.
Yes, he did.
That in itself, prima facie, right?
But since then, government hasn't said anything.
Since then, right, what government has, right, is what it's been putting out. However, when you look at what Reverend Ntim Fordjour put out, it raises serious questions to be answered. We are saying that, look, nobody is blaming government. Nobody has blamed the president. Nobody has blamed Felix. Nobody is blaming. We are asking for questions. If you answers, if you have them, produce them. We move on. Our job is to provide oversight. Is that not the case? If we are
to be a watchdog.
To be a watchdog. So when we ask these questions,
then they arrest you.
And you are arresting us. Paul, and let me put it on record on your show. This is what the Minority Caucus is going through.
What?
Every now and then, when a member of the minority starts being vociferous, then the person is invited by the National Investigative Bureau. We've not put National Intelligence Bureau.
It's going on?
It's going on.
So when you do one press conference,
it is going on.
So the other members of parliament
look for something. They look for something, right, and invite you. Let me tell you, the NSS matter,
National Service.
Yes, they were invited to the NIB, and you know what they asked them? In November, was Lawyer Bafo your lawyer?
Oh. Have you been lawyer for National Service before?
I've been acting for some of them. I've acted for some of them at a particular time.
So they're asking the individual, or they're asking whether you're a lawyer for the NSS?
The individual.
That in November?
In November, when the incident happened, was Lawyer Bafo your lawyer?
What are they looking for?
I don't know. So they keep on inviting some of our people to the NIB. And this is what they are doing. It is just to gag us. But you see, Paul,
what is the overwhelming majority that cannot show? I've never seen some of this before.
Paul, let me say this with the greatest of respect to Ghanaians. What we do, we don't do it for ourselves. We are doing it for Ghana. It's important we acknowledge this. You see, when Ghana was declared a one-party state, it didn't take Osagyefo alone to do it. It took parliament. Right?
Civil society.
Civil society.
Media.
And so this is how, if you are not careful, authoritarianism can prevail.
But how have you looked at the media focus on this one? It's been very brutal
I cringed.
That he should provide evidence.
I cringed.
That he should.
He
should be arrested.
I cringed on Saturday.
That what he's saying is baseless.
I cringed on Saturday when I watched Newsfile, and on your program, Samson Ayini is my friend, is my good friend, is my brother. I'm just inviting him to take a second look at his program on Saturday, right? I think that he owes Reverend Ntim Fojo an apology. To look into the eyes of a member of parliament and say that, don't you think you should be in jail by now?
Jail?
Yes. Don't you think you should be answering questions?
Prosecution make their case, submission of no case will fail, the defense makes their case, and then the judge will come to the conclusion that you should be jailed under the Criminal Offences Act for holding a press conference.
Speaking for the minority.
I've never heard this before.
I cringed. So I'm pleading with my brother. He should watch his video again on Saturday. I think that he should do so.
But you are sure he said that? I haven't heard that.
I watched it.
He said that?
I watched it.
That you should be in jail.
He said that with what you are doing, don't you think you should be answering questions with the police by now? I watched it and I cringed.
But that's different from saying you should be in jail.
No, he said it. I can show it to you.
The video?
Oh, I can show it to my brother. You see, I think that our brother needs to look at it with a sober mind. He should look at it with a sober mind, right? It may be necessary. It may be necessary to apologize to Reverend Ntim Fojo. I'm choosing my words very carefully. What I said in terms of what he said is a summation or it's a summary of what I saw. And I think that the posture and the way he handled Reverend Ntim Fojo, I think that on a sober reflection, he may deserve an apology from my brother. I also watched the morning show of CTFM, and one of the journalists there calling Reverend Ntim Fojo irresponsible. Oh, I cringed.
Irresponsible.
You see, are you saying that we shouldn't do our work as parliamentarians anymore, simply because Ghanaians hate us so much that they voted overwhelmingly against us? Paul, is that what you are saying? We represent 41% of Ghanaians in terms of the valid vote cast.
If you add those who didn't vote, you are probably 51.
Paul, you let's put them aside. Let's say they didn't even want to vote for us. That's why they didn't vote. Because the right to vote, right, inherent in it is also the right not to vote.
Not to vote, yeah.
Right? And so they have those who voted, right? Let's go and look at the area where we all represent. You may even find out that we are even representing about 50% of Ghanaians, even though...
In terms of numbers,
In terms of numbers.
Yeah, that's true. But your constituencies are larger.
Yes, our constituencies are larger. So we may even represent 50% of Ghanaians.
That's a very interesting argument. I never thought about that before.
And so we are speaking for about 50.
Because you have constituencies that is 200,000, 100,000.
Exactly.
Big ones.
Big constituencies.
And Ashanti and Eastern.
Exactly. Very respectfully. And so I think that let's look at the people we also represent. Are we saying that we don't intend building an inclusive government anymore, such that when government is in power and it has overwhelming majority, we should now keep quiet and watch the government govern? And then after 4 years, you come and say Parliament failed to do its work. Is that where we want to go to get to as a nation?
Let's see the Joy FM video on the matter that you're talking about, the famous news file program of last Saturday, where our brother Samson was, I think he was a bit angry about some questions that the way Reverend Tim Ford was answering some of the questions. Do you think he went overboard? You have the video. Have a look at the video. Let's see.
You don't have suspicions anymore because you said it was suspicion. And you have been shown that it is not cocaine, it is not money.
Now, the credibility of that video and information is in doubt. And I say so because if NIB, if Narcotics Control Commission, if Ghana Airports Company, if Police CID, Ghana Armed Forces, these relevant agencies had put out information, the credibility is high and there will be no inaccuracies, and there would have been no crimes. That's all we asked for. We simply asked for facts. And when the armed forces brought their facts...
Reverend, you are saying that if it was NACOB or the other institutions that told you, that told you or showed you this footage,
then you would want to believe.
The presidency has shown, you would have been okay with it.
You would have believed it because
okay. So my question again to you is that, my question again to you is that
because
you have a suspicion. You have a suspicion. You have now been shown contrary evidence. You disbelieve that contrary evidence. So where is the alternative evidence?
Now, whenever this question is asked, the counter question I ask is that the moment you put out a credible information, the burden of proof shifts. When I put it out there and they doubted, but Joy News checked and indicated that indeed those flights had come.
So in fact, the burden has not gone anywhere yet because a multitude of suspicions don't constitute proof. So you have not given any proof.
Very well.
Before the burden shifts.
Very well. Let me continue to respond.
He
to the
who that alleges must prove.
Very well.
Where is your proof?
So,
they have shown you the proof.
So
you disbelieve
we
it. So
have released our press conference, our press statement, and we have stated in there.
You are talking
that
suspicion.
our intel. Yes, please. Our suspicion is it not the people who gave them intel, upon which intel they went to raid Sapima, upon which intel they went to raid the containers containing cocaine. Samson, going by your logic, did they enter the container to take pictures of the cocaine, took samples of it, brought it as real physical tangible evidence, and brought it to national security? That this is our proof, this is our evidence that there's container in Takoradi, another one in Cape Coast containing cocaine. Therefore, act on it. If we are in this country and suddenly want to say that before a ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee will ask a simple question of suspicion for relevant authorities to investigate and put out credible information, and that query is evaded by politicians who can't champion the PR of it and prevent the security agencies from undertaking their investigations and credible communication, and demand that the ranking member must bring pictures and samples of the cash and cocaine suspected to be in the flight, then what was the basis for we calling for inquiry and investigations into it? If I don't have a picture and a sample of the cocaine, then I have no gravitas to ask for investigation. Is that a kind of logic? Please. In this matter,
so you are saying,
if the government of Ghana is not serious about it,
anybody can get up any day in this country and raise an alarm, and the government should go investigating. And when it investigates and it brings you what it says, this is what the truth is supposed to be.
What investigation?
They should be entitled.
No, please, let me tell you.
Hold on.
No investigation has been done.
They should be entitled to say what the government is showing is false, is fake, and we shouldn't believe that.
Samson, what he put out there cannot be taken seriously because yesterday I debated Kwachu Fosu.
The point is here.
Please.
Reverend,
And he said no investigation has been done.
You are not answering my question.
You said
you're not answering my question.
An investigation has been done for which he has put this information. And I'm telling you, he himself said no investigation has been done
you
yet.
say that you have a suspicion.
Yeah.
Have you moved beyond the suspicion?
We have put out the suspicion we had.
So have you moved beyond suspicion?
To where?
Because you have been shown evidence of the content of the car.
I think the most important point Reverend made was that, but I don't know, there's a Whistleblower Act in Ghana.
Yes.
And in the Whistleblower Act, whistleblowers are not invited to provide conclusive evidence. But if you really have conclusive evidence, you are no longer in the area of investigations. You are at courts.
That's right.
You are there. You are there. But how are you going to the plane and go and bring the... That's a question he asked. The people who gave the tip-off, did they bring you the cocaine for you to see that it's cocaine before you went? The tip was for the investigations to go on.
Paul, look, we are talking of security matters. Do you expect him to sit on TV and provide a source? That potentially...
Well, Samson was not asking for source.
No, but he says that... He says, have you moved beyond suspicion? If you can only move from beyond suspicion when you provide evidence. Where does he provide the evidence? The evidence would come to play if the structure or the system the president had put in place for him to collaborate
was allowed to work.
Was allowed to work. You don't allow him to get there. Then the whole government machinery comes after him. So clearly, if you look at the chronology of events, what happened yesterday or where we find ourselves is as a result of the way government has handled the matter. Because we are talking about security. Paul, I will never put out, information given to me by an intelligence officer. Never. I'm risking his job. I'm risking his life. Why would I do that? So the simple thing the gentleman, the honorable member of parliament is asking for and on behalf of the minority caucus is that let there be an inquiry. And the president, had acceded to that, more or less. You understand? Then you say, have you moved beyond suspicion? How do you expect him to move beyond suspicion? On Newsfile, that he comes to sit on Newsfile, that Mr. Paul Admotre, who is a security officer at the Ghana Airport Company, told me that there was this plane had contraband good. Is that what you were expecting?
And that he said he was on the tarmac, and that when he was doing the inspection, he saw it, and that he even told his boss.
Was that what you were expecting him to do? That Mr. Paul Adomatre of National Bureau Intelligence Bureau told me that. Jesus Christ.
Well,
is that how you are expecting him to move beyond suspicion? My brother, where have we got into? A member of parliament performs his oversight, and this is how we want to treat him. So let me ask them another question. Will they arrest every member of parliament if we were to read the statement separately, independently and separately?
If each of you had posted it on your social media page?
Or yes. Would they have arrested us?
Maybe that's why we on another note, and producer, don't add this to this interview. On another note, this is why some of us call for the British parliamentary system. It grants more accountability. If we're in a British parliamentary system, President Mahama will come to Parliament, yes. And the manager, Mr. Speaker, the president is here. What happened to the plane?
You know that is even the system that prevails in South Africa.
Yes,
the president is always in
Parliament. But it's a constitutional amendment that we need to look at because we needed more.
I think that.
Because now we are debating, President Mahama said, let's investigate.
Yes.
Somehow the investigations didn't happen. You will never reach President Mahama to ask him. When he comes to Parliament, he's going to do a sessional address. You're not going to, it's a monologue.
Do you know what I've observed? Let me share with you what I've observed. I think that there are members of the NDC who think that President Mahama is a moderate and that he tends to give in a lot. And that this time, they are not going to allow that. That is the posture of some members of the NDC, that we are not going to allow President Mahama to be his moderate self.
What do they mean by he's a moderate? Akufo-Addo is not a moderate. But he didn't arrest MPs.
So what's moderate? They think that President Mahama tends to tolerate a lot. But I think that is what we call statesmanship.
But Mills was the same?
Yes. But they've always had a problem with that. Right? They think, that they should be allowed to arrest people.
To violate constitution. So a moderate is one who makes obeisance to the provisions of the constitution, the laws of human rights.
I'm pleading
That's
with
a moderate.
I am pleading with them. Let's focus on nation building. We are here today, we are gone tomorrow. We should be interested in building Ghana for the future. President Mahama is in office for 4 years. In the worst case scenario, which we are going to work very hard to prevent by the grace of God and the mercies of Ghanaians, and we hope they forgive us. If we win 2028, or even if we don't win, and a new NDC government is in power, not anyone in this government will be in that government. It happened to Mr. Koku Ajidoho. And so let's be careful how we handle political power.
You mean some in this government may become hostile to the government that will come under the same NDC?
Exactly.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Very possible.
And so let's focus on making Ghana a better place for ourselves, protecting the hard-earned reputation of this country, right? What we are talking about, even the government may not know anything about it. If it is true.
It could be some bad people who can influence the system. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they can.
And unfortunately, we the politicians, we end up protecting them. Recently, when the ECG incident happened, the minority leader, Osahina Fejo-Markins, I hope you listened to him. I wish you had listened to him. Mm-hmm. He told them that, look, people in the public service and the civil service, right, they are making us earn bad names as politicians. So let's make sure that when things happen, we deal with it with an objective mind, with a view to resolving problems. Because tomorrow you will leave only to realize that somebody was using you as a pawn. So clearly we are where we are today, not because of Reverend Ntim Fojo, but because of the way and manner elements in government have reacted.
So what's the future? What are they going to say?
I think that
tomorrow are you going to the police station?
No. So we have stated that the protocols available under the Constitution and the arrangement which currently exists should be adhered to, which is that if the National Intelligence Bureau really and truly needs him, letter should be sent to the Speaker. The Speaker will make an arrangement for him to be interrogated in Parliament. But Paul, it's very sad.
Interrogated in Parliament. So the police will come to Parliament and interrogate.
That today, for what we say in Parliament, right, there's the desire to arrest us for what we say in Parliament.
I wonder why civil society. Let's do some text messages and be wrapping up. It's 25 minutes past 11 o'clock tonight. Ansaba, you first. What are people saying?
Okay, from George Ofori, he says, Paul, this lawyer is very intelligent. God bless him. From Prince, he says, I have lost respect for Samson after last Saturday's program. From Thomas, he says, the presidential oath, and I quote, "and to do right to all manner of persons. The mass dismissal is the president violating the presidential oath." From Yao February, he says, how will people not believe that this approach of the national security and the NIB nowadays on high-profile people will inform or induce armed robbers to fake themselves and rob people? Lastly, from Prince, he says, Madam Gloria is very brilliant. Over to you, Antoinette.
Yes, so still on the aircraft issue, Imora Mohammed said, isn't Felix Ofosu-Kwakye ought to have known that Ghanaians needed to have known the content in those two suspicious aircraft which departed the Kotoka International Airport? In the spirit of accountability, the inability of Felix to show the content in those two suspicious aircraft which departed the airport, especially when there was power outage in the airport, raises the bar of suspicion very high and seeks to implicate Felix, the government, communicators, and the presidency as far as the claim of those two aircrafts carried cocaine could be true. After the misrepresentations and distortions of facts by Felix and government communicators to whitewash this NDC government. Now, on the story of the CJ, Chris Adu says, this attempt by this government to remove the CJ seems to be that they would want to fulfill establishing their own tribunal to put their political opponent into jail without going through proper legal procedure because they knew that they didn't have enough evidence against them. Ella.
All right. So this one is from Miao. He says, how will people not believe that this is the approach of the national security and the NIB nowadays on high-profile people will inform or induce how armed robbers fake themselves and rob people? Sandra says, my only question to the government is, let's even grant that Reverend Inti doesn't have evidence, but are we not also worried about the inconsistency in Felix's response? By this act, why don't we call for a commission of inquiry so the Ghanaians will know who is telling the truth? This is just simple. I don't know why government doesn't want to commission this inquiry to even shame the member of parliament if indeed he came to lie to Ghanaians. I don't understand the government's interest in this cocaine issue. Are they protecting someone? Prince says, Madam Gloria is very brilliant. Charles says, that is what journalism in Ghana has come to, sadly. Can't even ask sensible questions without being attacked and requesting for evidence from someone who is from the minority and the whistleblower. Chris says, Paul, this attempt by the government to remove the CJ is to fulfill his promise Mahama made to the NDC lawyers during the campaign. And lastly, from Raymond, he says, Dear Brother Paul, excellent presentation by the eloquent Gloria about the unethical removal of the Chief Justice. However, the NDC government has made it clear time and time again that they want to remove the CJ in order to get rid of the Electoral Commissioner of Ghana. This will also give them the opportunity to carry out the so-called oral process. No amount of public outcry will stop this plan. God bless you and your team for this education. All right, back to you, Paul.
Okay. Let's be wrapping up now. About for your last words, you're talking about MV Benjamin.
So this is the tape. Samson said, let me correct it, that if I sat here or any other Ghanaian sits here and makes these allegations, by now he will be in jail.
That's better.
You understand? Better. But I don't think it is even proper.
It's still not great, but it's different from the first one.
Yes.
First one was so very brutal. He said if he did that, or any other person did that, that person could be in jail.
That's right.
So he was talking about the privileges of parliament.
Privileges of parliament.
But people have raised that issue anyway.
Yeah, but Paul, we are saying that, look, you are dealing with a member of parliament. He has raised issues. Answers must be given, right? The answers that must be given, right? Paul, how does jail come in? How does arrest come in?
Well, but there's in the NCA law, there's a rumor causing fear and panic is in there, and that can warrant an arrest.
Paul, this is not causing fear and panic.
It depends on how you look at it.
Where is the fear and panic in this? Paul, President Kufuor, MV Benjamin,
yes,
a private conversation by people having a conversation with a police officer, right? President Kufuor didn't say that this is going to embarrass my government. He set up an inquiry.
Yes, he did.
You understand?
But it did embarrass the government, but he did.
He did.
And he was doing the right thing.
But I'm saying yes. Because you see, sometimes if you are not careful, people may do things, right, which you may defend as a politician. We become pawns for public servants and civil servants, unknowingly, only to realize subsequently when you have left power that, well, we're being used. You understand? And so when these matters come up, let us look at them with circumspection. It is a security matter. Is it not? Have you thought about this? That why is it that immediately after the press conference, for instance, the Director General or Chief Executive of Ghana Civil Aviation was sacked, was removed from office?
Well, you are trying to put a correlation
I'm saying
together.
That, no, I'm asking questions. Is it a case that answers are being sought? You understand? So let's be careful. When these matters come up, let's not insult people. Let's not embarrass them. Let's not intimidate them. Because sooner than later, people may be cowed into not talking about matters of national interest. And when that happens, it is Ghana that will suffer, right? And so let's be careful.
Okay, we'll leave it here, viewers. Long days. Manchester United won. Oh, they drew 2-2. Sorry, when I was coming into the studio, it was 2-1. So my daughter just sent me a text that it ended up in a draw. But that was a great performance from Arsenal last Wednesday. Now, man, Declan Rice was super. The Arsenal. But they won't win the league. Good night. Have a great